So, the internet shorts. I was never truly set on tackling these things, seeing as they're all only 2 minutes in length, and I wasn't sure if people wanted to hear my thoughts on them, but I figured, what the heck? I've already gotten this far, why not just go the extra mile and cover these as well? So, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. For those who may be unaware, back in 2016, Cartoon Network had released several Powerpuff Girls minisodes on their official YouTube channel as a way of promoting the release of their series, which was brand new at the time. The opening introduction was released in February as a way of giving people a taste of what was to come, although we didn't get a clear idea on what the show was going to be like until the following month. March saw the release of some preview clips, such as the one from Man Up in which Buttercup is seen fighting Man-Boy after he calls her princess, but the real names of the game came in with 3 internet shorts, which were all uploaded to Cartoon Network's YouTube channel during that time period. I think this was actually a really smart idea and concept, seeing as it served a way to build up hype for the new series as well as give fans old and new a taste of what was to come. Given that very little was said about the show leading up to when those first episodes were dropped, these essentially served as the first look into what the more modernized version of the Powerpuff Girls would be like. Good times. You know, sometimes I miss those days where I was blissfully unaware of what this Powerpuff reboot would end up turning out to be, but, you know, at the same time I wouldn't be where I am right now, so oh well. No point in dwelling on the past now. Many fans were concerned that the series didn't include some of the traits and aspects that the original was most profoundly known for. There was less action in them, and the action that was there wasn't very exciting. A good proportion of the jokes just fell flat and got very few laughs out of people, and it was very generic looking, and a lot of the bad designs stuck out like a sore thumb. Needless to say, it didn't turn out to be as amazing as many had hoped. But still, releasing these shorts was a good idea in execution, and I give the network props for doing that. Considering how much we rely on streaming and sites like YouTube, using these platforms to advertise new shows is something that all networks are starting to take full advantage of. Take something like Disney XD for example. They did something similar by releasing the pilot episode of DuckTales on YouTube back when the series first premiered in August of 2017, and it seems to have worked out well for them so far. It's hard to estimate just how disappointed some people were when they saw these shorts, because I'm sure it ranges from person to person depending on their dedication to the original series. Although, it is widely agreed that the general consensus amongst those on the internet that Powerpuff Girls 2016 is nothing like what they expected it to be. Personally, I recall being more open-minded when the series first came out. I even remember liking the short Run Blossom Run specifically when I first saw it, although I did neglect the other 2 shorts for some of the reasons I just listed. In this video, I'm just going to briefly run through each of the 5 shorts that were released over the course of Season 1, starting with Who's Got the Power, and then followed by Air Buttercup, Bubbles' Beauty Blog, Run Blossom Run, and Ping Pong Z, in that order. Some of you may notice that the first of these shorts is just the opening introduction sequence and not technically a short, but seeing as it is counted as one of the 5 and I never gave it a full in-depth look, I figure now is the best opportunity for me to do so. These minisodes are technically counted as the 13th episode of the first season based off of the official production codes, which makes sense given that not including them would leave us with only 39 11-minute cartoons instead of the official amount produced by the network, which was 40. But enough about that, let's just get right into it.
Sugar, spice, and everything nice. These were the ingredients chosen to create the perfect little girl.
What you are witnessing right here is the full version of the new Powerpuff Girls' opening theme song, titled Who's Got the Power? In this fully animated 2-minute opening, we are treated with more bits and pieces of what the Powerpuff Girls are like than what the measly 20-second intro that plays before most episodes has to offer. Just like the original series, Professor Utonium added sugar, spice, everything nice, and an accidental extra ingredient called Chemical X to unintentionally create the 3 perfect little girls, Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup, who've dedicated their lives to fighting crime and the forces of evil. Or so we thought. Setting the rest of the series aside, I cannot hide the fact that this intro sequence is very well done. I adore the idea of using the slide transitions as the method to cut between each shot of the professor adding ingredients and discovering the girls' creation, and the usage of strong, prominent colors on the black, white, and gray backgrounds is always one of my absolute favorite artistic choices in any medium. I never found myself getting distracted while watching what was happening on screen. The addition of the paper cutouts and the sticker outlines have a nice touch because they give off a simulated 3D-ish look, almost as though they're popping right off the background. There's even a bit of a parallax effect during certain shots that really emphasizes this point on top of the white outlines which encompass the thin black ones. On top of that, the theme song that accompanies it does an excellent job of portraying exactly what each of the three girls are like and what they're all about. In fact, let's take a second to look at each of the girls' establishing shots here. First, we have Blossom. By paying close attention to the background, we can see that she's clearly invested in school as indicated by the inclusion of the stapler and the rulers lying around certain portions of the frame. There are also some plans included on the right hand side as well as some graph paper at the very top, which indicate that she's probably very organized and strategic when it comes to tackling her problems. Also, based on her pose and body language, you can clearly tell she's very heroic and confident, that she's very humble and headstrong and willing to take on any challenge that opposes her. In other words, she's a softer character that's filled with lots of joy and good feelings, as indicated by both the lyrics and her hugging of Octi as the main focus of the frame. She's also surrounded by animals and crayon drawings, two of her biggest interests that also give the audience an indication of what she's like and what she does. And then there's Buttercup, standing with her arms crossed looking awfully smug and cool because that's who she is. She's surrounded by some explosions, a few fighter jets, and even a tank to indicate that she's meant to be a tougher, more badass fighter relative to her sisters. Everything follows proper color theory, specifically in the case that each of the three girls' corresponding color represents them and their specific traits throughout the entire animation. Personally, I still find the original themes to be better suited to representing what the Powerpuff Girls is all about, but I won't deny that Who's Got the Power isn't half bad. Can't say the same for the closing credits theme, but I don't even know if I can consider that music. Everything that I've complimented up to this point are indicative of the detail that I love looking for in animations like this. Small background references and color coordination being just a few of the many inclusions that I wish would have been made more often for the regular episodes of the show. Now, of course, I don't expect the animation to be as seamless and artistically driven as the opening introduction because of, obvious budget differences and such, but the reboot episodes themselves certainly could have looked better than they do. My only minor gripe with this entire intro is that by having the professor spin around in this manner here, it actually retcons Mojo Jojo pushing him into the beaker containing Chemical X for the origin story. But other than that minor fact, it was very, very well done. Next on the list, we've got Air Buttercup, the second of the Season 1 minisodes. In this short feature, Buttercup is seen attempting to make a basket while throwing her trash away, bragging about being a big shot to her sister. Alright, that's a pretty good idea. It's relatable to practically everyone and very simple in concept. Let's see where this goes.
Watch the magic. Ooh, nothing but... Ooh, so close.
It's pretty ironic to me that the first official taste we ever got of this show centers around garbage. She proceeds to show Blossom how it's done, but continuously fails every attempt she takes trying to score a basket here. Meanwhile, the other students in the room watch and react based on how she's doing. Bubbles even does this little side gag thing where she pretends to be a sports journalist talking to the audience and commentating on what's going on. Although in-universe it probably looks weird to the other kids, and Powerpuff Girls 2016 isn't that much of a self-aware show, so make of that what you will. Despite her first failure, Buttercup decides to give it another shot on the basis that the first attempt was just a fluke. Boy, was she wrong.
Now let me show you why they call me Air Buttercup.
Hey! Fuck out of here, boy. Get that weak shit out of here.
This leads her to become very aggressive as she gets more and more agitated with every failure that comes her way, eventually building up to the point that she tosses a nearby student all the way across the room towards the wastebasket without showing any signs of remorse for hurting him after the fact. And I have to admit that that right there is where it lost me. Now, interestingly enough, one could make the argument that this short here actually ties into the episode Man Up in the sense that Buttercup tends to outrage after getting riled up enough. And that would be a pretty cool connection if that was intentional. It's unclear whether or not it was, seeing as there hasn't been any official confirmation on this as far as I'm aware, but it's interesting to think about regardless. Still not fond of the fact that this isn't a very superhero-like thing to do though, so I'm still going to deduct some points for that one. In the end, Buttercup gathers up a bunch of different items and belongings from all the students in the lunchroom and hurls the giant ball of stuff right at the wastebasket, only to cause thousands of dollars in property damage the way the original girls did without batting an eye. Good stuff. Somehow, she still managed to miss the basket, leading her to admit defeat as Bubbles wraps up her imaginary broadcast and tosses her empty pudding cup right into the trash can that Buttercup had been trying to score on this entire time. Overall, this special is just okay. It had a larger focus on the slapstick humor with the constant missing of the baskets compared to longer episodes which try to rely way too much on LOL so random humor and dialogue-based jokes that tend to be hit or miss. The ending was certainly a good way to wrap things up and add insult to Buttercup's injury. I'm all for a good slapstick gag, and while I think this one was fine enough, I felt that one of the upcoming shorts that I'm going to be covering soon did it better. Speaking of which, Bubbles' beauty blog, but on video, is next up in line. This short focuses on Bubbles creating her own vlogging channel on TVTV, essentially this cartoon's version of YouTube. Or rather, it focuses on Bubbles attempting to create a vlog on makeup tutorials. However, her sisters seem to be constantly getting in her way and ruining everything for her, whether it's by taking her supplies or hogging the camera to themselves.
Let's do lipstick. Step 1.
Professor says fold your clothes. Why aren't your clothes folded? When are you gonna fold your clothes?
Buttercup, can't you see I'm doing a beauty video? Dumbo laundry, dumbo Buttercup.
Butter cool!
Nobody thinks you're cool!
One small attention to detail is that the icon on the progress bar of the video towards the bottom of the screen moves along as the short progresses, which is actually pretty meta considering all of these shorts are available to see on YouTube since that's what they were originally made for. I really like how Bubbles' beauty blog encapsulates how many things can go wrong with this sort of thing. I used to make random videos when I was younger like this with my friends, but somehow we'd end up getting in each other's way or we'd have disagreements and it'd ultimately just lead to a mess similar to the way Bubbles has turned out here. This short also does a decent job at portraying the troubles of having siblings, seeing as how Blossom and Buttercup keep finding ways to ruin Bubbles' video and make it about themselves. Classic kid stuff.
Guys! Wiggity wiggity what?
I also wasn't a fan of the ending with the professor, and I was especially bothered by the fact that Buttercup was trying to flex her muscles at one point, but other than those two minor complaints, there really aren't too many other problems with this one. It's fine enough as it is. Now it's time to run on over to Run Blossom Run, the fourth of the bunch and my personal favorite of all the shorts, We've Got the Power notwithstanding. Since Buttercup had her own special with Air Buttercup and Bubbles with Bubbles' beauty blog, I'm sure that observation along with the fact that this short has her name in the title indicates that this short is Blossom's turn in the spotlight. It revolves around Blossom thinking she's late for school. She wakes up seeing her alarm clock didn't go off and assumes she's going to be late, so she quickly bolts out the door and tries to get to class as fast as she possibly can. Continuing the trend of situational humor that the previous two shorts have done, Blossom finds herself running into someone calling her for help every which way, whether it be someone's cat stuck in a tree or an elderly man who needs help crossing the street.
What's wrong?
I can't cross this street.
Sir, I'm gonna have to carry you.
I can walk myself, thank you.
But...
Thank you.
Okay, good walking. There you go, bye.
A little cliche in the superhero department, but back when this short first premiered as an introduction to the series, it actually gave me a lot of promise. I remember thinking to myself something like, oh look, she's balancing superhero tasks with school, just like the original. That's awesome! As a starting point, this is a decent foundation. Once she arrives at the front of the school in the nick of time, she attempts to open it up, only to realize that it was Sunday all along. A bit of a predictable ending, but hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I also thought it was cool how the short breaks the fourth wall by including a timer in the top right corner of the screen to show how much time she has left. It's similar to the way the player was moving at the bottom of Bubbles' beauty blog, only this time it's non-diegetic. The only part that really bothered me was in the last 3 seconds of the timer, in which she somehow manages to cover all of the distance she just covered in the past 70 seconds in a matter of 2 because she had to run home and get her homework, which she forgot. Other than that, in the ending where Buttercup and Bubbles just magically show up out of nowhere despite being asleep and not willing to get up 90 seconds prior to this moment, it was alright. Still my personal favorite of the Season 1 shorts, even with these problems. So far, Air Buttercup, Bubbles Beauty Blog, and Run Blossom Run all have a lot of similar themes going on here. Each pertains to one specific girl attempting to do something only to be foiled multiple times and ultimately be prevented from succeeding because of events that are out of their control. Whether it's Buttercup trying to make a basket, Bubbles trying to make a video, or Blossom trying to make it to school, these minisodes are all focused on the idea of making the girls fail for comedic purposes. It works, and like I've said, I haven't really found a single one of these shorts to be bad per se, but it's worth mentioning that all of these seem to have followed a basic formula when they were written. As for the final short, this is not the case, as Ping Pong Z isolates itself from all of the previous minisodes to tell its own quick story, this time revolving around the 3 girls playing extreme ping pong while the professor goes out running errands for the day. Buttercup challenges her sisters to a match of ping pong, in which the loser has to do the dishes before their father comes home and finds out they haven't done them yet.
Do your worst.
What starts as a nice, leisurely match quickly escalates when Buttercup takes it too far and begins breaking things all around the house, all the while Bubbles casually watches in glee as their home gets destroyed. The remainder of the episode is just this. Blossom and Buttercup are at each other's necks with this ping pong match so that the other has to do the dishes, while Bubbles just happens to be there and occasionally chimes in when necessary. There are also some cutaway gags to moments where Mojo accidentally gets shrunk by his own shrink ray when the ping pong ball flips it around, or the mayor finding his hat when it's knocked onto his head. Although this next clip is my absolute favorite part.
Whoa, nice shot.
The match ends with Buttercup returning with a short hit, causing her to win the match just in time for the professor to get home and see all of the damage that they've caused. Although, anyone who knows the professor in this show by now would know that he doesn't actually care about the fact that his home is destroyed, but rather just that the girls hadn't done the dishes yet. And that's all there really is to it. Ping Pong Z is a short and sweet run through of what a ping pong match amongst the Powerpuff Girls would be like, and aside from the typical dumb response the professor gives, it's okay. I'd rank it second best behind Run Blossom Run. Also, I'm not sure what the logistics of this version of the game are, but I'm pretty sure Buttercup lost when she smashed the ball through the floor right here, so shouldn't she have to do the dishes? Not her sisters? Either way, that about does it for everything I have to say on this subject. The full opening to the series is phenomenal, as I had mentioned before, and while Air Buttercup and Bubbles Beauty Blog failed to impress me, Run Blossom Run and Ping Pong Z more than made up for it. All of these shorts are still available online for free at the time I'm uploading this video, so feel free to watch the clips for yourselves if you're curious enough to want to check them out. You don't have to if you don't want to though. I don't blame you for that. Phew. Okay, now I'm officially done with Season 1. Or am I?
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Did I say that right?
Perfect.